Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Money with me, Mary Holm. Thanks for taking just a few minutes to listen in while Jessie Mulligan and I talk through some useful ideas about how to make your money work better for you. Just remember though, this is guidance. Final decisions are up to you. Over to Jessie.
Hey there, Mary.
Kia ora, Jessie.
Good, very important topic. Can I share something with you? A couple of times this week,
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, hey, I listen to Mary Holm on your radio show every couple of weeks. And I said, oh, that's good. And they say, yeah, whenever I hear her, I think, oh, I must get around to getting out of that default account of mine. Yeah, I've been saying that for 3 years, they tell me. Whenever I hear Mary Holm, I feel guilty and think I must get onto it. So, receiving and understanding the advice is one thing, but if you're listening today and you're one of those people, maybe get in touch with us. Actually, I'd like to know if it's a common problem, but 2101 is our text number. You got to act on this advice.
Yeah. Now, you had someone on procrastination the other day, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. Author of the book Soon.
Yeah. Great name.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and actually, if you are a regular listener of Mary's, you will know that the sooner you act, the better you'll do. And in fact, even a couple of years can make a massive difference in the end, thanks to compound interest.
It can. And the main message, I suppose, to those procrastinators is that it's pretty easy. If you're talking about your KiwiSaver fund, say that you're in the wrong one in a default one or in another one that's not really right for you, all you have to do is go to the new provider. So use the KiwiSaver fund finder on Sorted to work out which is the best provider, and then just email or ring or they approach the new one, the one that you've decided to go to, and they will contact IRD, contact the old provider and move the money for you. So I think that's something that puts people off a lot,
Yeah.
Like if you change banks, it's a nightmare. I've done that a couple of times in my life, and it really is, yeah. But something like
forget your broker telling you he's going to save you $400 a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
it's like they make it sound easy, but it's really,
it's often not, but I think it's probably the government itself at the very beginning said to KiwiSaver providers, we've got to set this up so it's easy for people to move. And so it really is easy. So,
we're doing that at our house at the moment, and it was really easy. We called the new provider, and they've sent us the forms, and those forms are currently sitting on the bench where they've been for 2 weeks. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, well, as long as you keep them on the bench and don't put anything on top of them,
okay.
In the end they'll start bugging you enough. We all know about the putting on top of.
But
problem.
You'll be pleased to hear that we're not changing because I'm trying to time the market, Mary. I've learnt.
I'm glad to hear about that, Jessie. Yes, yeah. It's now the reason that we have talked about this before, but we keep getting emails about it. I get some, and then you get some that you forward on to me. People just keep on, and the thing is, they don't always realise that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So by timing the markets, I just mean they're having a bit of a look around at what's happening, and I'm talking housing as well as shares or KiwiSaver or whatever. They're seeing what's happening out there in the markets, and they're saying, oh, I think I don't really like this, I don't like that, I think I'll move and do something different, put my money somewhere else. And it doesn't work. It's not a good idea to move your money on the strength of what's happening out there in the world. Mainly because most of the time people move too late. They see house prices going up or share prices going up. They say, I want to get into that market. And very often, soon after or right around the time they get in, the market turns. And we just can't ever predict what's going to happen. We see a share market that's been going up and up starting to go down. And that might mean it's going to go all the way down, a long, long way down, or it might mean it was just a little blip and tomorrow it's going to go on back up again. And there really is no way, not even the experts can tell you which way things are going to go. I saw one recent piece of research which is similar to, this is to do with shares, similar to lots of other research that has much the same findings, but this one was talking about putting $10,000 into shares in the American share market from the end of 2001 to the end of 2016. So we're talking over 15 years there. And what they found is if you had put your $10,000 in, so it would be basically into, say, an index fund of American shares, but the similar things would apply to New Zealand shares, world shares, whatever. So their 10,000, if you put that in at the beginning of that period and just left it there, by the end of the period, the 10,000 would have turned into nearly 29,000. So, and that's a return of over 7% a year. You would have got, some years you would have made losses, but overall the average was 7% a year. But if you, in all of that time, in 15 years, if you had happened to be out of the share market because you'd looked at what had happened to the share market and said, oh, I don't like this anymore, I'm going to move my money into a term deposit or bank savings account. That's what people sometimes do. They say, the market's not looking good, going to sell the shares.
Put it somewhere safe.
Or the share fund. Yeah, go somewhere safe. And then when it looks good, I'm going to move back again. And if you happened in the course of that 15 years to miss just the 10 best days, 10 individual days out of 15 years, if you happen to be out of the market for those 10 days, instead of your money growing from 10,000 to 29, it would have grown to 15. So only about half. And your return would be about 2.6% a year instead of 7.3% a year. It's hugely different.
Okay. So
Hugely
and the point is that you don't know when those 10 days are going to be.
That's exactly right. And if you missed the 20 best days, you would have ended up actually with your $10,000 less than 10,000 at the end of the 15 years.
Can you say that one again for me?
So if you missed the 20 best days, your $10,000 would now be 9,000 something. It would have been below. You would have actually lost money. Now, I mean, this sort of research is a bit silly because that'd be terribly bad luck to miss all of the 10 or 20 best days to miss those. But nonetheless, you could miss quite a few of them. The thing is that the share markets turn around really suddenly. You know, there's suddenly a really good day or suddenly a really bad day, and people just can't see them coming. So if people get move in and out of the markets, they very often miss out on quite a few of the good days. And you know, the very best days quite often happen actually at the very times people have moved out. There's been a drop in the share market over, you know, a week or two, and people are saying, oh God, I just can't cope with this. I'm going to move my money out and put it into bank savings account, something like that for the meanwhile. But that's, you know, sometimes the market seems to together the people in the market seem to have all said, this has got crazy, we've sold too much, we're all going to go down and buy today, and the market goes right up right when you're not in it. It's really a dumb idea to try and time markets. The lovely part,
if you could time markets, other people would be doing it.
Well, yeah, the experts would be doing it, and they'd be beating you to it. And some of them try, but not a lot. Even the, you know, active fund managers are not in and out of the markets all the time. The lovely thing about this message is that buy and hold is what they call it. Just buy into a market or into a KiwiSaver fund or whatever, and stay there is much easier. You don't have to bother about what's going on in the markets. You can get on with reading novels and you know, which are much more interesting.
As well as being the best proven strategy. It's also the easiest strategy.
Yeah. It's not, you know, there's not many other realms in life where doing less is good. You know, in most things, getting out there and practicing or training makes you better at something, but in investing, it's really the opposite. So,
I mean, I suppose if you are happy with the gains you've made and are ready to cash up, that's something different, right? Maybe you feel like you've done pretty well out of the share markets and, you know, you're happy to take it.
Yeah,
you're not planning on coming back in the future.
No, that's right. If you want to, it should be, the decision like that should be driven by what's happening in your life, not what's happening in the markets. You know, do get the money out and blow it on a world trip if that's what you've been planning to do. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you've still got some put away for retirement, because you know you don't want to have too threadbare a retirement, but. So you're moving on to when you should move your investments. There's really basically just two aspects to that. When you're getting nearer to spending the money, it's a good idea to then move it from a higher risk. If, let's say, it was in KiwiSaver and you were planning to spend it on buying a first home, or you're over 65 and you're planning to spend it in retirement, as you're getting nearer to that time, then it's a good idea to move from a higher risk to a lower risk investment, because you don't want the minute you're going to be spending it to find that the market's just dropped and you've got a whole lot less money. So gradually moving your money down to a lower risk fund as you get closer to spending. And then the other time when you should move your money is when you find that your risk tolerance is just not very good. And, I'm a wee bit worried that a lot of New Zealanders in KiwiSaver haven't really had this tested yet, because the global financial crisis happened right after KiwiSaver started, but a lot of people weren't in yet, or were in such a small way they didn't really kind of realise what was going on, I think, when people's bank balances or KiwiSaver balances dropped quite a lot. At that point, of course, the balance might have only been $1,000, and they're getting new money coming in now. They pay every payday anyway, and so they just didn't really notice. And ever since then, the markets have grown pretty well. They've kind of wobbled a bit this year, but not a lot. They kind of dipped a bit, but then they've come back up again. And so there are a lot of people out there in KiwiSaver in the higher risk funds, and that's great for the long term, but you haven't really been challenged yet with a decent share market crash, I shouldn't say decent, with a horrible share market crash. And that's when you'll sort of learn whether you've got the strength of character, courage, whatever, to stick with that investment.
The nerve.
Yeah, the nerve is another good word for it. To stick with that investment, or whether at that point you're going to say, oh God, I can't cope with my balance possibly halving. I mean, in a KiwiSaver fund, it's pretty hard to imagine it worse than halving, but halving is pretty bad. If you've got 50,000 in there and suddenly it's worth 25, you're going to feel pretty sick about it, but you've got to stick with it.
Temporarily halving.
Yes, yeah, good way of putting it. So I thought just to help people work out their risk tolerance, I've stolen some stuff from the good old KiwiSaver Fund Finder on the Sorted website. Looking at, there are 3 questions they get you to answer,
Great.
and I really recommend people do it. It's called Find the Right Type of Fund for You. And the first question is about when you plan to spend the money, and we've talked about that. As you get closer to spending it, you want lower risk. But the way they've worded the other 2 questions are, the first one is, what's most important to you while you're saving? And the 3 options are getting back at least as much as you put in. And if that's the way you feel, you should be in a low risk fund if you really can't bear the thought of going down, your balance going down ever. Second option is almost certainly ending up with more than you put in, despite some ups and downs along the way. So there's going to be some volatility, but your balance should grow over time. And the third option is getting likely higher returns over the long term, even if that means big ups and downs in some years. So for people can go on the website and have a look at those choices and read them and think about it, about which one.
Are you happy with the wording of those choices? They're pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, as you might have guessed, Jessie, I helped word them, but
I didn't guess that, actually.
Didn't you?
No.
No. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way for people to just have a look at and have a little think about those 3 options. And then there's one other question which is along similar lines, but it says, what range of gains and losses are you comfortable with over a single year? And the first option is no loss, but just up to a 5% gain. So you're not prepared to have any losses, and you're content with gaining about 5%. The second option is a 10% loss up to a 20% gain. So you are going for higher gains, but you're prepared to have losses sometimes. And the third option is a 30% loss to a 100% gain. And, those numbers are used wisely because I said before, your money could halve. That's very unusual. But at 30%, going down 30%, so if you've got 100,000 in KiwiSaver and it drops down to 70,000, that not only might happen, but we've got to say will happen in the higher risk KiwiSaver funds at some point over the decades. That and it might happen quite a few times. No way to know. But on the other hand, we've got 100% gain. That's doubling your money in a single year, and that happens too. It has happened in the New Zealand share markets and other markets. So you can see that sort of gives you a feel for the trade-off. You've got to decide whether you can put up with some losses some years in exchange for getting some big gains other years. That's the big trade-off there. Okay. But if working through that KiwiSaver Fund Finder, you find that you're in the wrong fund for you, the wrong level of risk, which is what this is after. It's not after which provider. There's further questions in there to help you work out which provider to go with, but this is the more important question than which provider you're with is which level of risk you're at. And that's the one that makes the biggest difference to how much money you end up with. But if you find that you're in the wrong fund and you've got a fair bit of money in KiwiSaver, you might not necessarily want to move your risk straight away, especially if it was a big move from, say, a default fund, which is a conservative fund, up to a growth or aggressive fund, which is much higher growth, because you might have decided, well, I'm a long way off retirement, I'm a long way off buying my first home, or I've already got one, and I can tolerate these big ups and downs in exchange for longer term gains. If that's you, it might not be a great idea to move all your money all at once from the low risk fund to a high risk fund, because you might find that tomorrow the markets have actually plunged. I mean, whenever you want to make a big move like that, it's not a bad idea to do it a little bit gradually. And one way to do that would be to go to your provider and say, can I just put all the new money that's going in to keep my KiwiSaver into a higher risk fund? They'll let you have two different funds. So you've got your current lower risk one, but your new money's going into the higher risk one. Or if you want to get things moving a bit more, you could say, can you please put half of my balance into the higher risk fund and then half of it 6 months down the track or something like that, rather than moving especially if you've got a lot of money. If you've got, 5,000 in there, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. But if you've got 100,000 in there, you might want to move it a little bit gradually.
Yeah, because you could get really unlucky, right?
Yes, you could. Yeah, on your timing. And so it's always quite a good idea to do that gradually. Yeah.
Should we share a couple of these letters?
Yes, sure. Yes, we've got a couple of letters that people have sent in. Both of them are a little bit dated now, but that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can, if you've got a question for Mary, send us an email and we'll sort of slot our response into when we cover that particular topic. I've just retired about 6 months ago and I still do about 12 hours work a fortnight, which takes my pension to almost what I was earning full time. So I'm not strapped for cash at the moment. I invest in RNZ investment funds. I've got 58,000 in conservative and 15,000 in the balanced fund and 15,000 in balanced growth. Up until a few months ago, these were doing extremely well and they're now on their way up again. But I don't know what I should do with these funds. I've set myself minimum amounts the investments can drop to. And with the recent drop, they didn't get to my minimum, but came very close. I lost nearly $3,000. When they get to perhaps $5,000 above my minimum, should I take my money out and maybe put it in term deposits? I already have 80,000 in term deposits. Gee, I wish I had this retirement plan. And put the interest into an internet account and use that if I need any extra money, asks this emailer.
Yeah, he I'm pretty sure it was a guy. He's actually talking about timing the markets without realising it. Now, there's some good things and some bad things he's doing. So to start with the good ones, he's got term deposits that he can spend in the next few years, and that's great. And then he's got some money in conservative, some in balance, and some in growth. So he can gradually, after he's spent the term deposit money, he can spend the money that's in the conservative fund. And then he can gradually while he's doing that, be moving money down from growth into balanced and balanced into conservative, so that as he gets closer to spending it. So he's done that well. But he's set himself minimum amounts that the fund that the balances can drop to, and then he's going to move the money. And that's a real pity. You don't want to move money right after it's fallen, even if it's just fallen a bit. You don't want to be saying, this is when I'm going to move, because that makes the loss a real loss.
It does, yeah.
While it's just there on paper in the account, it's not a real loss yet. You haven't made it real, but so and he's not talking about big drops either. He's talking about $3,000 drop on 88,000. So, what I want to say to him is, if that makes you feel a bit unnerved when you've lost 3,000 on 88,000, it suggests you're in too much. You've taken too much risk. I would suggest you gradually move your money out of the growth fund and into the balanced fund, and then some out of the balance into the conservative, because I think you're taking too much risk. Or you might just want to watch your balances a bit less. People watch them too closely and then get unnerved by changes. And sometimes it's best just to be, as I say, reading novels and not watching so closely.
So the upshot is be in the right fund and stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 37,
Yes.
writes someone else, and I'm in a KiwiSaver balanced growth fund. However, I would prefer to be in the growth fund, as I've learned through playing around on the Sharesies site that I'm more of an aggressive investor. I am confused because of the share market dip around Waitangi Day. Since the share markets have dipped a bit, would now be the right time to switch? Or do I wait a bit? I have just... that's the end. Is that the end?
Yes,
Sorry.
that's the end of it. Yes. And congratulations to this young person, because they've worked out they're an aggressive investor. They've thought about it and worked out they are in a position to take quite a lot of risk. And it's also quite good because I can't remember whether it was a man or woman, but this young person has decided that it'd be a good idea to move into the higher risk funds when the market's gone down, and that's a lot better than doing what our previous one was, which was reducing risk when the market's gone down. This person is talking about increasing risk when the market's gone down, but he or she is still trying to time the markets, and I think it's not a good idea where you just cannot know what's going to happen later. So I would just say it's a really good example of moving gradually. By all means, move into the higher risk funds, but do a little bit now and a little bit, in 3 months or 6 months, and a little bit at the end of the year, that sort of thing. Don't string it out forever. Within a year is probably good, because you want to get on with doing other things in your life, but just don't move it all at once.
Mary, thanks for coming in.
It's a pleasure, Jesse.
How are we doing on time? Can I throw one more quick one at you?
Sure.
Just a letter that just came in this afternoon.
Yeah.
As a private KiwiSaver investor, why are we unable to purchase KiwiSaver units at a known price, a bit like when we buy or sell other equities like shares? By this I mean choosing to invest in our scheme while the unit price is low. This could be seen as a similar scenario, shifting one's funds between schemes. So he goes on. So he's asking, he wants to buy at just the right time with KiwiSaver, but it's hard to do, isn't it?
That's what I've been saying, really. I mean, there are unit prices. Most of the KiwiSaver providers use units, and there are prices published probably on their websites, but I wouldn't take any notice of that. This is somebody, once again, trying to move money, time it for when prices are looking good, and you just can't know whether they're going to be even better tomorrow or worse tomorrow. And so don't look at prices, look at what works for you.
Great. Thanks, Mary.